Hi everyone, I'm Miss T or Talia, and I'm a college advisor at Hoover High School. And this is my partner in crime.
My name is Lilith Maksudian, and I am a college and career advisor at Glendale Unified School District.
And today we're going to be presenting on financial aid, the differences between FAFSA and the California Dream Act, and what you would need for each one. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so applying for financial aid, there are three parts to it, but we're not really going to be going over the CSS profile. The CSS profile is an application that students who are applying to private schools need to fill out on top of the FAFSA or the California Dream Act. So if you're not applying to private schools, then you don't need to worry about that. So what exactly is financial aid? Financial aid is financial assistance, and it helps you pay for college. So college obviously can become very pricey. Some things that you would need to pay for include tuition and fees, which are basically your classes. Room and board, if you're living on campus, then you're going to need to pay for your dorming or your meal plans because it's going to be kind of difficult to cook when you don't have your own kitchen. And then books and supplies, so textbooks, laptops, basically anything essential to you getting your studies done. And lastly, transportation, whether you're living on campus and you just need rides here and there, or you're commuting from home and you need gas or any car maintenance things. So financial aid will help with all of these things. And then here are some of the financial aid that will be dispersed to you once you fill out the application. So first we have gift aid. This is the best kind of package you want to get. This includes grants and scholarships. Basically, it's money that you don't have to pay back. And the reason why we push really hard for our students to apply to as many scholarships as possible is because the more that you apply to, the more likely you'll be eligible to receive more. So just apply to as many as you can at any point in your life, and you can keep that in your savings account and use it as you may. It's not specific to certain types of things. On the other hand, grants are dispersed through either the state or the institution. And this means that, again, it's not money you have to pay back, but sometimes they are geared towards certain things. So let's say the Cal Grant, which you would get once you fill out the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, will have 3 different Cal Grants that you'll be eligible for. Once they determine which one you're eligible for, that one will particularly go towards your tuition, and then the remainder you can use for whatever it may be, but primarily it will be used for tuition. Next is work study. So this is also money that you don't have to pay back, but you're going to be working to receive this grant. So financial aid will give you a cap on how much work study you can achieve. So that's, let's say it's $1,500 a semester or $2,000 a semester, and you'll basically have to find a job on campus and create a contract between the campus job and the financial aid, where they will be paying you out of the financial aid money instead of straight out of the company. So technically this is a perk for you. It's easier for you to get a job on campus when you have work study because the company's not paying you. The money that they're paying you is coming from the government. So definitely encourage students to apply for work study. And the last one is loans. So this is money that you do have to pay back, but loans get a bad reputation. Sometimes people need loans to attend college. A lot of students may not get as much grants or scholarships as others. So that means that they lack the financial aid to send them to school. So in that case, you would take on the loans. I did it myself, and I'm slowly paying them back now. So it's completely doable as long as you understand what's happening. We always encourage students to make sure that not to accept more loans than they need, and also not to decline the loans because eventually they might need it. And we'll get more into depth about that later on. But those are the types of financial aid available to students.
So when starting to think about financial aid and what kind of applications you need to be filling out, which one should you fill out, which one is for you. You will find multiple types of applications. The first and foremost is financial aid, the FAFSA application, which is for US citizens or legal permanent residents. So if you are a resident of the US, then you will be completing the FAFSA application. The second application is called the California Dream Act. That is for undocumented students only. So undocumented students will be completing the California Dream Act application and not the FAFSA application. And like Talia mentioned earlier, the CSS profile, this is an additional application for students who are applying to private schools, and only private schools will require the CSS profile. So if you are not going to be applying to a private school, you do not need to complete the CSS profile in addition to the FAFSA or DREAM Act. So FAFSA, what does FAFSA stand for? It stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and a little bit on what you might need in order to apply. For FAFSA, you will need your parents' 2019 income tax, which would be anything like the 1040, 1048, 1040EZ, and the W-2 forms. If it applies for you as a student, you will need to provide your income tax and your W-2 forms if you hold those, and your parents' social security information or their alien registration number if they are not US citizens. That will be something you would need as well. And records of any type of untaxed income, whether it's child support, whether it's disability, CalWORKs, anything that falls under untaxed income, that would also be necessary in order to apply for FAFSA.
And then just something to add on, in the case that you as a student have a social security number, but your parent does not, you're still filling out the FAFSA, and in the place where it asks for your parent's social security number, you're going to go ahead and put all zeros in. There's going to be an error that pops up. At that point, you're just going to forgo the error and continue. But it's important to put all zeros for that area. And then you would need to create an FSA ID. So this is prior to doing your application on FAFSA. You're going to go to fsaid.ed.gov and create an account. You're going to create a username and password, and you really want to write these down, because if you lose it, it's a whole process. You have to go through FAFSA, talk to them. They have to ask you identification questions to make sure that it's not someone hacking into your account, and it can get really tricky. So please keep track of your username and passwords. Each student that is filling out the FAFSA will complete an FSA ID in addition to one parent. So only one parent needs to create an FSA ID, and that will be the parent that will also sign the FAFSA at the end. If the parent does not have a social security number or an ITIN number, you will need to print out a signature page at the end. So when it asks for the electronic signature, if you do not have a social security number as the parent, you will need to print out a signature page and then mail that in. It's very self-explanatory. When you're at that point, it'll just ask you to print out the page and mail it in. And you will need to do this every year to renew your FAFSA. So long as you are going to be attending college, you need to think 1 year ahead and always apply within that March 2nd deadline. And then this is kind of what it's going to look like. So this is the FSA ID page. You can either create a FSA ID or manage it if you already have one. You're going to create your username, password. There are certain guidelines you need to follow, and it'll check them off. You need numbers, uppercase, lowercase, 8 to 30 characters, or something else. So it'll tell you if your password is doable. And it's important to keep this FSA ID information, because once again, this is how you are going to sign your FAFSA.
So to start off your application, like we mentioned, you will be going to fafsa.ed.gov. You will be applying to the 2021-2022 year application. Here we did make a little mistake, so we will be changing that for you, but it will be the 2021-2022 school year that you will be applying to. Make sure that you guys are clicking on the correct FAFSA year, and the school year that you're attending needs to be the correct one, because if you apply for the wrong school year, you will not receive the money for that year. So make sure that you are applying and clicking on the correct school year. Again, that is 2021-2022 school year. And if anything, if you need more further help, you can use the IRS data retrieval tool if you need necessary. And I totally lost my train of thought, but students, like it says, students will report the information of the parents they live with. So regardless of who claims the student as a dependent, the parent that the student has, the parent of the information that they live with, will be necessary.
So I did just make that correction on there. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but it says start a 2021-2022 FAFSA. So again, for next year, it's 2021-2022. Please make sure that you're correctly clicking on the right year. Otherwise, you're going to submit the wrong application year, and you're going to have to redo it for the correct year because that information is not transferable. And like Ms. Lilith said, please use the IRS data retrieval tool when you can. This basically connects the government's IRS tax information that they have on you directly to your FAFSA so that it's absolutely legitimate. Otherwise, if you manually go ahead and put in the tax information, you may be selected for verification, meaning that they're going to ask you questions afterwards to make sure that what you reported is correct with your transcript, your tax transcript. So if you don't link it right now, then they're eventually going to ask you for the tax transcripts in May when you're dealing with accepting your college offers and also dealing with award letters. So you want to just get that out of the way right now. In the case that you don't file taxes and you can't use the IRS data retrieval tool, it's okay. You'll deal with that then. That's a very special case. But in the case that you can use it, please do.
So after you have made your FAFSA FSA ID, you will use that to log in. So your FSA ID, again, we want to remind you that both the student will create an FSA ID and the parent will create their own FSA ID. And you will each have your own individual ID number, and you will use this to log in to the FAFSA application, and you will also use this as a signature at the end of the application.
So once you submit your application, there are a couple of things that you will follow up with. You will first receive an email confirming that you've submitted it. It'll congratulate you on it, and then along within that email, your EFC will be included. So EFC stands for Estimated Family Contribution. This means that according to the tax information that you put in, the income information you provided for them, they have now calculated an estimate of what you can contribute as a family for your student to go to college. If it's below a certain number, I'm not sure what the threshold is, but if it's below a certain number, then your EFC will show 0. This is always great. If it shows 0, that's a good thing. That means you are going to probably get the most amount of financial aid that you can. In addition to this, later on in the months of maybe March to May, you'll be receiving award letters. And this is once you've gotten your acceptances from the school. So if they have accepted you, then you will open a portal with them and take a look at your award letters. And then for some private schools, they have earlier financial aid deadlines. So in the case that you're applying to private schools, please make sure that you're following up with that. Next, we're going to go over the DREAM Act. So again, this is for students that are undocumented and do not have a social security number or are not here with a green card. So this is what you'll need to apply, similar to the FAFSA, but a little different. So first of all, students need to be AB 540. This means that you've attended a California high school for more than 3 years. You graduated from a California high school, or an equivalent to that, you have received a GED. And then you also need to submit an affidavit to the California Public College or University that you're planning on attending. So once you've gotten your acceptance, you're going to basically confirm that you have lived in California for more than 3 years and that you have graduated from a California high school or received your GED, so that they can confirm that information. And then the last part to this is that you will need, once again, your 2019 parent income taxes. This can be in the form of the 1040, 1040A, 1040EZ is most likely. And then student social security number as provided by DACA in the case that you are a DACA recipient, or individual taxpayer ID number, which is the ITIN, again, optional.
So when you start your application for the California Dream Act, you will go to caldreamact.org. The first couple questions will be determining if the student is an AB 540 and if they fall under those requirements. So the application will ask questions verifying the AB 540, like we said. This is kind of how it looks. You will go to the website, you will click continue, and it will be pretty self-explanatory. It is a lot easier and simpler than the FAFSA application, so it will be pretty simple to go through.
And then just some important information for both the FAFSA and California Dream Act. This is just something that they have to do, but all male students who are filling out the FAFSA or California Dream Act must also register with the Selective Services. So Selective Services is basically registering for to be drafted. Obviously, this hasn't happened in 30-something years, so I don't see it happening again in the near future. But unfortunately, this is just something, this is a policy that male students have to go by to receive any form of federal aid. So on the FAFSA, there is a question that asks if you are already registered for the Selective Service. Most likely, male students at this age are not yet registered, so you're going to click no for that. And then it's going to ask you if you would like to register, in which case you will select yes. In the case that you select no for that question, they are going to select you for verification, and then you will have to actually fill out a physical copy of the form for the Selective Services, go to the post office, and actually send it in. So to kind of not put you through that, I highly suggest that you read the questions and just make sure that you are selecting yes for the second question. Yeah, that's about it.
So your remaining steps, some of the steps that you are going to look out for is submitting your FAFSA applications. So the deadline for the FAFSA application for both UCs and Cal States is March 2nd. So please make sure you guys go on and apply for your FAFSA application. Don't wait until March to do it, or even February to do it. Try to get it done beforehand. You can wait until then, but we don't recommend that, just because you want to get it out of the way, make sure that you have it in. It is not first come, first serve, but it would be good to have it done and out of the way so that you don't have to worry about it last minute or even forget about it. So after you have submitted your application, the next step is receiving your award letter. So you will be awarded your letter with, it could be a combination of grants, scholarships, loans, work study, whatever they determine for you, they will send in your award letter. And what you must do once you receive your award letter is accept or decline the aid. So you want to make sure that you are not just kind of leaving it there. You want to make sure that you're not accepting the aid if you don't need it or if you don't want it. Your award letter will kind of look something like this. This is a sample for you guys to see how it will look. So it will give you a list on the left-hand side of what type of award you will be receiving and the amount for broken down by, fall, winter, spring, and your total. And it will give you your options on the right-hand side. So you will see the check mark, the X, and the question mark. And what that means is you can either accept the award, you can decline it, or you can say that you are undecided and you can come back to it later when you have decided. But we are going to say that if you decline it, if you say, no, I don't want this, this aid, and later you change your mind and you say, oh my God, I need this, you never know what will happen later down the line. If you decline it, you are not going to get that aid back. So that will disappear from there. So make sure that you don't decline it unless you're for sure that you're not going to use it. And do not accept it just to accept it, just so it doesn't go away, or just don't accept it if you're not going to take it. Because if you do accept a loan, for example, you need to pay that loan back. So they will not understand and say, okay, never mind, you don't have to pay it. You will have to pay it back. So make sure you're not accepting it unless you know for sure that you are going to need that aid. So if you are not sure, just click undecided and you can come back to it later. I believe it will stay there for about a year or so, for the first year of your education. So leave it undecided if you're not sure, and then come back to it later if you need it, and you can come back and accept or decline it later.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it for our presentation. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is a recorded presentation, so it will be on the GUSC website. You could check it out at any point, and feel free to email us if you have any questions. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.